We're back. Welcome, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome back to the Call to Action Network here on this Sunday night. Chill to Action with me, your girl, Danny Joy here, hanging out with always my favorite co-host, Mr. Paul Denuzio.
It's me, it's PLD. Happy to be back on Sunday again. Hopefully everybody's going to find us. This is our second week now on the new day of Sunday. Blame PLD. It was my fault for the move. I was working. I got my days off shifted. So we changed to Sundays instead. I hope it's not a problem for everybody. Danny seemed to love it, so we're going to go with it for a little while anyway, at least until I get moved back. You never know.
Yeah. we follow his schedule with that because Sundays and Mondays are always flexible with me. Like, my times are fine, but Paul's got the important job.
It's just overnight also. That's the worst part about it. Important or not, it's just the overnight part that I have to deal with. But either way, we were happy to be here. Enough about me. We are here, and we are welcoming on a very special guest who had kind of a big week, kind of a big moment. You know him. You are going to love him if you haven't loved him already. He's definitely going to be impressing the hell out of you. He's impressed the hell out of us. Without further ado, Corruption's new rock star. I shouldn't say rock star, really, because that's a bad thing. It's not. That's a different faction, I guess. So
Corruption's new.
I was going to say new Coyote. How about that? This is the new Coyote. Adam Collins. So good to see you. How are you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing quite well. Just got back from a work trip, but happy to have a soft landing here with you guys on Chill to Action. Nice way to relax on a Sunday.
Indeed. And already, quick super chat already. Got John Lestrine in the house. Thank you. Wonderful to see you. Even Paul. Yes, I love you too, John. Always, John. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam, thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with us on this Sunday night. We really appreciate you coming in and spending time with us. So we always like to ask the same question whenever someone comes in here, but we feel like that question is kind of getting a little, I don't want to use a weird word or anything like this, but anyways, Adam, we want to know how you got involved into the Schmodown, but we kind of already know how you got involved into the Schmodown. We know that you started off in the fan leagues and that you've been a fan of the Schmodown for quite some time. So I want to know, Adam, like, how are you feeling right now being a part of the Schmodown, like getting drafted, and now that going from being a fan to being a competitor now inside of the Schmodown, how is that feeling for you?
Well, it's still a bit of an adjustment. It's a surreal experience to hear people start saying your name more often than you're used to hearing it. But honestly, the transition's been much smoother than I anticipated, only because I thought I was going to be too hyped when I got the good news a few months ago. But honestly, the best thing I did from the beginning was just get involved and break the ice immediately with my faction mates. And the rest is history, just getting into the trenches with everybody in preparation for those IG and Star Wars tournaments, just to help out the team. That was a great way to get to know everybody all at once. And then it was a natural transition when we pivoted to singles.
Well, I gotta add, we've had some people come from the families before, and there seemed to have been some friction sometimes. Paul, Chance Ellis, when they came in, they kind of it was like the new crew coming in with the old veterans kind of thing. Have you experienced any of that?
Well, I've seen a lot of these great players come from the other leagues and move into the Schmodown, and I knew I wanted to control my narrative as much as possible. So my main thing was I didn't want a bunch of pomp and circumstance when I got drafted. I wanted to be as uninteresting to the crowd as possible because I wanted to just come in and play the game. Mm-hmm. I didn't want a spotlight on me. I didn't want a bunch of chatter about me leading into my debut, because just by virtue of having come from the other leagues, I knew there would be some expectation for me to perform, and I wasn't about to come in and start bragging about my abilities. That's not my style anyway, but I at least not in real life. It was just a more natural fit for me to kind of work on the sidelines, do my thing with my faction, and just wait for my moment to play, because that's where I really get dialed in, and that's where I think I show what I can do.
That makes sense. But it's interesting to note that, like, for example, Laura Kelly came over to Corruption and she joined the dark side, so to speak. The Corruption is more of a field franchise. Is that something that you would like? You don't want to come into the league that way. I get that, and maybe you want to make your mark. As you make your mark, is that something you might be interested in developing more of something along those lines at all, or are you just going to stick?
Well, did you see my promo ahead of the Roca match?
I did. I thought it was definitely a step in that direction. I was like, hopefully.
Yeah, just stay tuned.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I am not a Boy Scout by any means, but I am pretty diplomatic when it comes to being the new guy. I don't want to come in and just assume that I have a place. I want to earn it. Right. So I'm just getting to know people little by little, and I'm already very tight knit with Corruption, and I've even had the pleasure of running into other people here and there through StreamYard and getting to break the ice that way. So I like all of my experiences thus far. Everyone's been very kind to me, and I just look forward to getting to knowing more people in the league, honestly.
This feels like a great season for you to come into the Schmodown with the type of gameplay that's going on now. Unfortunately, we all have to get used to this sort of way of life for this season. But coming into this season with this type of gameplay, with that, also coming in with another rookie from the fan leagues, Marisol, going into a faction with someone who was from the rookie leagues, Chance. It just kind of feels like a lot of the Corruption stars just lined up for you in that sort of sense. So I really want to know your relationship with Shannon Barney and how things have been working between the two of y'all.
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned it on other shows, so I won't belabor it, but I'll go through like the basics. So when I started playing in multiplex and the other leagues, I started to go on a little bit of a roll and build up a record. And when I heard that Shannon had an opening in Corruption back in like February, I want to say, back when she was in studio on SEN, before things got the way they are, she mentioned this vacancy, and so I did a lot of thinking about it, and I knew I wanted to play in the Schmodown one day, but I had no expectation that it was going to happen anytime soon. And I just expected to play in perpetuity in those other leagues just because it was fun, and it was a challenge, and it was a fun challenge. So I had no expectation, but I wrote her a very thought out message and sent her a link to one of my matches. And I just asked her to keep an eye on my matches if there was ever an opening. And then when Christian reached out to me about free agency, as far as I'm aware, he found out about me on his own, more or less. Shannon didn't bring my name up to him. So that was encouraging when I found that out. And then when he brought me into free agency, she reached out to me right away. And it was my number one choice, not just because she had announced an opening, but because I looked at who was already in the faction. And, obviously you got Mike and Chance at the head of the pack. And I feel like that's best of both worlds because Chance is obviously a very well-rounded player, incredibly accurate, and he was the first one to transition from the other leagues into the Schmodown. So I knew that would be a valuable connection to make. And then Mike, being who he is, his legacy, his versatility as a competitor, the fact that he and Chance together, have gone on this, in my opinion, historic run. Which is not over. I mean, they just won the belts back for the second time. So there's a legacy there. And then Laura, I'd heard nothing but good things about, and I loved her matches. I had met Marisol in one of the New York events and knew she was good people. And I also had seen her matches, and I knew she was going to kick ass. And then Mark Hoyk, I have been a fan of since like the year 2000 when he was on Beat the Geeks. In fact, I'm happy I'll give you this scoop, and I don't think I can take full credit by any means, but like 2 years ago, I woke up like out of the blue and I was like, whatever happened to the Movie Geek? Like it occurred to me. I've been watching the Schmodown for the longest time.
Right.
I was like, what happened to the Movie Geek? And then I looked him up and I found he was on Twitter, and then I posted on the Facebook group and I tweeted at Christian. I was like, you got to dig this guy up. You know, he'd be perfect for the Schmodown. And then Christian replied to me and Mark and said, if he's in LA and wants to play, why not? And then Mark's like, I'd like to play. And then Christian's like, hey, DM me.
Oh,
and like, I have the screen captures from this on my phone.
Nice.
I'm not going to dig them up right now. So I haven't actually shared that story on the air before, coincidentally. But yeah, I like to think I played a small hand in that situation. So the chance to get to even meet Mark or, you know, work with him in any capacity really excited me. And then, you know, I liked everything I'd seen from Clee and Claudia as well. So that was why they were my first choice. I had a conversation with Winston as well. It was very positive, but I was very upfront with him that I pretty much made up my mind. And I knew swag would be obviously a great opportunity for anybody, but I didn't want to lead him on or, you know, anything like that. But no, ever since I joined, the relationship with Shannon's been fantastic. You know, we implicitly trust one another. We're in regular communication. She leads the charge in these study sessions. You know, I've had her support since the beginning. And because, you know, we had such a positive experience in preparation for those Star Wars and IG tournaments, you know, she wanted to make sure I had an opportunity with the play-in matches when the time came. And because I knew Marisol had been drafted first, you know, I just wanted to make sure that Marisol was going to get a play-in match as well before I agreed to that. And then when I found out that was the case, both of us were greenlit. I was like, let's do this.
Sweet.
Nice.
Oh, well, do you talk about the study sessions? They are legendary. Is everybody involved in study sessions, or is it only just like interviews, like 1 and 2 people at a time, or is it the whole like faction that gets involved in the whole thing?
You know, it's you know, people come and go, to be honest with you. There's a few of us who are, you know, a little more like obsessed with this than others. I won't name names just because I got, other than me, I could say I'm obsessed with it. Right. You know, like I never stop preparing for my next match ever. So I'm in every single one of those study sessions. I can divulge that much. But no, it's very active. You know, we have everyone coming in as often as they can and helping out in any way they can. And it's just fun to have developed this rapport with each other by talking about movies for hours at this point, you know.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned actually before also Star Wars and Inner Geekdom as you prepare for those tournaments. Is there ever a chance that you would ever want to expand beyond the singles and teams?
I would love the opportunity to do more next season. Singles and teams was my immediate priority. Right. But it's, you know, my career in the other leagues speaks for itself. I didn't just play singles, you know. Right. So everything in its own time. I don't want to like come out and say like I want to do this, and this, but I have aspirations. I can tell you that.
Fair enough.
So I don't ever want anyone to deep dive into their study routine or anything like that. I would never ask a competitor that question at all. But I would like to know, going from the fan leagues into the major leagues, into the Schmodown, did your study routine change at all? You don't have to give details or anything like that, but did you find your study routine changing at all, or are you sticking with the good old?
Gotcha there.
I can tell you this. It became more just more of a regular part of my routine because when I was playing in the other leagues, I wanted to win those matches, but playing in the Schmodowns, that's another level of dedication that just comes by virtue of being in this league. So naturally, I just couldn't help but start to really absorb things at an exponential level. And yeah, while I won't go over particular study habits, the one thing we all do if we're serious about this game is we never stop watching things, and we never stop watching things you got to seek out stuff you haven't seen before, and you've got to watch stuff that isn't in your normal genres. You know, I believe in making sure that you open yourself up to to categories that you wouldn't otherwise gravitate towards, because not only is it going to help you maybe win a match someday, but you might actually watch something you like. You know, like I've seen a lot of movies ever since I started playing these matches that I would have never paid attention to. And they're not all winners, but there's some that really surprised me. And I don't fancy myself a critic on the level of like a professional like Bibiani or McWeeny. But, you know, I have a critical mind. You know, I went to film school. I'm very engaged with film criticism. So I'm very analytical about films to begin with. So when it comes to the way I absorb information, I don't have to sit down and read a book and study statistics to be good at the Schmodown. I'm naturally absorbing details of movies and then connecting them to other movies when I watch them. And that's how you really beef up your base knowledge, in my opinion. And that's not a study habit. That's just how you engage with cinema. You either do or you don't, you know?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. I'm going to I'll put you on the spot here. Do you have an example of a movie that you've discovered that you really liked or that you wouldn't have because of your studying habits?
The entire Step Up series, thanks to William Bibiani.
Thanks.
I watched all of those movies because he would not shut up about them on Critically Acclaimed. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll check them out. And they were delightful. Like, I was like, especially that third one. Good God, that is a powerhouse dance film. It's epic to watch. The plot is silly, but I mean, all the plots in those movies are pretty silly. The dancing, though, is striking. Like, it's really impressive stuff. So that would be one more extreme example. I mean, I like dance movies in general. I just never watched those because they seemed really superficial, and I just didn't think I'd find them interesting. And when I realized, like, hey, it's okay to watch something that wasn't made specifically for you. And when I brought up criticism, the reason I mentioned that is because when I watch films now that I may not naturally enjoy as much, I try and view it from the demographic of who it's going towards, you know, like what would someone else get out of this movie, you know? And that can kind of change my perspective and help me get more out of a movie that maybe I otherwise wouldn't find that interesting.
Bravo, well said. You got to watch everything, Andreas. Tully, good to see you, Sean. It was good to see you. And I believe also Mr. Parker wanted to say hi. It's a
hey.
Love the spider.
I am absolutely loving the rookie season that we have this year. This is such a fun crop of rookies that we have going in. So congratulations on that, on your rookie year coming in. And, you know, I know we talked about it earlier behind the scenes about your time in the fan leagues and how much time you spent there, and now coming into the Schmodown. So you're in faction with Mike Kalinowski. You're doing your playing match with Mr. Andres Gallegos that was just in the chat over there. And now your second match into the Schmodown is going up against John Roca, a powerhouse inside of the Schmodown. Did you think that you'd get to someone like John Roca so soon?
Well, I mean, I knew what was going to happen if I won the play-in match. So I knew it was going to be him or Merle, and I'm just like, that's how this is going to be? Okay. So, but going back to Andres, I can't emphasize enough that Andres needs to come back and play a singles match sooner rather than later. He got 6 out of 8 in round 1. Inner Geekdom is a tough slice. It's all over the place. And the reason, and I would have been more gutsy with movie release dates if I didn't know like it was something that he was good at. Right. That's why I checked the multiple choice twice, because I knew I'd set myself up for a 2-point steal if I wasn't careful. So, you know, he definitely challenged me in ways that I think people don't realize. I got the TKO, but at the same time, you know, he was keeping pace, and he's going to be great in the Schmodown going forward. So I took him very seriously. So when I won that match, I was like just waiting forever, like, when am I going to know if it's going to be Merle or Roca? And so we had to get through that. We had to get through that Roca-Irwin match, and that was a thing. I was like, okay, so good chance it'll be Roca, but I mean, Dan's got to defend against Irwin now, and if Dan loses, then I could end up playing Dan, and that's like honestly, either one is intimidating, you know. And it's no disrespect to Roca, but I was admittedly a little more intimidated to play Dan if I had to, you know, choose between the two, because it's Dan Merle. And like to have that be my second match. I mean, Roca as my second match is intimidating enough. But either way, I knew it was going to be tough. So when I knew it was Roca, after that title defense, I was just like, I gotta make this a match. I gotta, like, I don't like, I can live with losing to Roca. I think anybody could, but I really, really need to make this count. And I just started going back and watching all of his matches again. I mean, I was already very familiar with Roca, but I wanted to go back and see like some of his more high scoring matches, some of his higher accuracy matches, matches where he got the most steals. It was just a good way for me to get into his headspace going into that. And I know he said he watched some of my matches too, but I know how engaged I was with the game already. And I just think I was looking at Roca in a way that he couldn't possibly be looking at me.
Makes sense. I got to say, watching that match was very impressive, obviously. I mean, KOing a legend is something you got to be really proud of. What's funny to me was I felt like I watched the whole match and I kept saying, wow, he's so unflappable. Like, he just kind of never gave away anything, like, as far as, like, any intimidation factor until the end of the match. And when you won, it was just this big, like, moment.
Well,
you excited at that point.
I'll tell you this. That reaction was real, but it was not so much pent up as I won. Like that was what TKO. Like that's what that was.
Okay.
It was just like the reality was setting in that I'd won. And Christian said himself, he's like, Collins is in shock right now. I was like, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And the comment about the legs, trust me, I felt my legs during that entire match. I was fully aware of everything that was happening during that match. It was once the match is over, it's like I don't have to answer any more questions, and I won. This feels amazing.
Yeah, anybody can blame you. Nobody can blame you. Checking out at that point, just being on cloud nine.
Yeah.
I know that you, having heard some of your interviews before, you said you had got into the Schmodown in 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. Like, now that you're here, is John Roca or anybody else someone who really wanted to face? Did you go like, this is the person I want to face? Who would it be now?
Everything in its own time. I mean, I got a lot of people on my side of the bracket that would be fun to play. Any of these possibilities are exciting. My next match, which we'll get to later, I'm very excited about.
Good.
And then, if I'm fortunate enough to keep going, just look at that bracket. I mean, Bibbs, Barbarian, Liz, Chance, Brendan, and Draco, any of them would be really, really exciting to play. And if Chance and I end up meeting at some point, I know it'll be very similar to the IG final. So I'm okay with that if it happens. But I'd be happy to play any one of those people on that side of the bracket if I can get past Lon. So I'll focus on what's right in front of me. And I can tell you, I would be thrilled to play any of those people. I think it would be a real challenge. Bibbs is someone I've admired for a long time as a critic and a player. So playing him one day would be really exciting. I'm very impressed with what Craig the Barbarian's done, in 2 divisions this year. I think he's going to do some amazing stuff. So playing him would be really exciting. But we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, John is definitely someone I wanted to play, but I just didn't, I didn't know that I would get into this tournament, let alone that my second match would be against someone like John, Right. So it was a shock when I saw that it was going to be him or Merle. But then I had so much time to adjust to it that by the time I got to the match, I was in the right headspace, Like if I found out 24 hours prior that I was playing Roca, that'd be a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to know, Adam, I want to know about the Coyote. Tell me about your nickname. How did that come from? Where did it come from? And does it got any specific sort of special meaning?
The Coyote is an extension of, my personality from the other leagues. So I didn't get heavy into character work in those leagues, just because I was focused on just trying to win. But my name in those leagues was the Nomad. And the idea behind the Nomad was that it was an extension of my personal life, because I've lived on both coasts. I've lived in the middle of the country. I've moved around a lot. And I also was playing in all these different leagues simultaneously. So I felt like the Nomad was the appropriate moniker at the time, kind of literal, but it worked for me. Right. And when I presented that to Christian, he liked the idea behind the name, but he wanted it to be something that popped a little bit more and had more of a visual element to it. So when he proposed the Coyote, I felt like that was a good way for us to meet in the middle and kind of rebrand that idea as something that was more visual, and also had all these potentials for metaphor in a really cool way. Because I'm not going to show up in a fake fur skin getup. I think Barbarians cornered the market on that, but I do like the idea of being on the prowl. Being a scavenger, a survivor, and a character that roams from land to land. And, that's why I'm always in my bunker during my promos, because that's where I study.
The cabin in the woods, so to speak.
Yep.
I love that. I really enjoy hearing you talk about character and the progression of your character, because that's one of the fun things about the Schmodown is character work. And I love that you said that you're being humble about coming into the league and not being a big braggadocious person. But I'm really excited to see you move forward into the league with your character and what the Coyote does, especially with what you have going on with Marisol. So Howling Justice, that's like, I saw your interview on the rundown, and that's a great catchphrase. I love that, and I'm very excited to see what the two of you have going into the future. So I want to know how you feel about Marisol as a teammate and your future in the league.
Well, and forgive me, and I'm sure she will as well. I cannot achieve that pronunciation of her name, which is beautiful, by the way. So that's my disclaimer right there. She and I hit it off, and we were coming into this at the same time. I went over it, more or less on previous shows, but once Mike and Chance won the belts back, we were crossing our fingers that it would be us, but we didn't know for sure. Right. And Shannon proposed it, and then the next step was like just making sure we got the blessing of the other faction mates. But we're already dialed into playing. It's a natural progression. And because she had such a strong debut, she had an amazing showing against Paul, who played 100% perfect, and couldn't knock her out, by the way.
Right.
So she is, the sky's the limit for Marisol going forward. So once I found out that we found out that it was official, it's like, we want to take this tournament by storm. Trust me. Yeah, we are very, very serious about making a statement in this tournament. And whoever we play first, we wouldn't care if it was Founding Fathers, wouldn't care if it was Final Exam. We will play any of them, and we will make them sweat, if not beat them. Trust me.
All right.
We complement each other's knowledge very well, and I'm very excited to show people what we can do as a team.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So we know the teams that are going into the tournament. So with the teams that are not in the tournament, if you had an opportunity to play any team inside of the Schmodown, past or present, is there any team specifically that you would want to play with Marisol?
We're excited about a lot of the possible matchups in this tournament. We don't know who we're playing yet. Hopefully we'll find out in the next month or so. But I'd love us to play Odd Couple, Founding Fathers, Final Exam, just off the top of my head. All three of those would be very exciting. And then, look at the current championship picture. Of course, playing Shazam eventually would be a real challenge, and then ideally we'll be challenging Mike and Chance for the belts. That's the plan, because that would be an epic, respectable contest, and that's how we plan to close out the year strong for Corruption.
Yeah.
So you don't think that'd be heel heat between you guys? It's kind of Mike and Chance to have a little bit of heel heat going on. You guys will be still respectable with each other?
No. I think we'll be okay. There's not a lot of blame going around in our faction when if something doesn't go somebody's way. I'll leave it at that.
Look who's in the chat there, Marisol. Oh, this guy's all right. I think I'll keep him also. Werewolves in London sounded like to me, but I can't do it better than better than that. So thank you, Marisol.
I appreciate her sentiments. I agree. Awoo. Very much. Awoo. I'm not gonna do the full howl right now because I don't want to blow out your earphones. But awoo, indeed.
I love that. That's so good.
Just to get Streamlab from Jake Yakavetta donating, saying, I'm not even pandering to the guest, but after last week, I have Adam winning the whole tournament. Had like an hour-long breakdown of the rest of the tournament with my mom, and that's where I landed.
Nice.
No pressure at all, right? Yeah. No, honestly, it's not that. You always have to reset for your next opponent. It doesn't matter who they are. I went in against Andres. It's like I was intimidated by that match because we didn't know anything about each other, and that's always more intimidating than playing even like it's. I guess technically, sure, I'll say Roka's a more intimidating opponent overall just because of his pedigree and his history, but there's something to be said about not knowing much about your opponent, and getting past the play-in was a big step for me, and then obviously getting past Roka was a huge step. So now it's really just like I'm looking at Lon and I'm realizing like I get his character. I think his character is amazing. But I also know how good he is. I know that guy, people forget that guy has gotten like 3 or 4 perfect rounds with the bonus. People don't talk about that. They don't talk about the fact that he remembers that Falstaff is the main character in Chimes at Midnight with Orson Welles. No one, like Lon just knew that when they asked him that, like in classics, like without hesitation. So Lon is dangerous. He is dangerous. And I go into every match just like resetting the button and assuming my opponent wants to kill me with trivia.
And Lon, you never know what he's going to do, especially if the delinquent. So it could be actually literal, but I guess we'll find.
And then he's going to try and search my body for a flask, which he'll probably find.
Yeah, so to kind of use that as a nice little pivot, what's up, Jill? Love Jill. Jill's in the chat. So I watched a couple of the interviews that you've done on other shows. So shout out to everyone doing wonderful work for the Schmodown, getting everybody on. And I saw that you've done bar trivia before, and a lot of so going from bar trivia to this type of environment, it's got to be totally different. One of the things that you touched on was like, it's just not taken so seriously in bar trivia. Like, do you feel like this level of Schmodown play is more akin to just you as a person? Yeah.
I mean, it started when I was playing in multiplex. I just, they take it so seriously over there, and they take pride in the way they write questions. So that really set a precedent for me early. I really respected the structure, and watching the Schmodown, gave me that same satisfaction. I like the structure. Obviously, we're every season we're running into questions and answers to questions that people debate, and I think that's healthy, and I think that's how we evolve the game. But for the most part, like, it's a very airtight process, as much as it can be, because movies are so subjective. So you could phrase something a certain way, and people are going to think like you're completely off base because that's not the way they relate to the film. But so like I really do appreciate the structure of the Schmodown when I moved up to the Schmodown, because I'm not worried about like these groups of people who are Googling everything on their phones. Like that's why I gave up on bar trivia even pre-COVID, because I was just done. I'm going there and I'm like, usually I'm answering most of the questions for my team. And then I see some other table like towards the end just start running up points at the end, and I see that their phones are out. And that's not the case at every bar. Some people are way better at enforcing rules and stuff like that. But it just really turned me off. So I wanted to go somewhere where I could play movie trivia specifically with rules and accountability and focus. The Schmodown obviously serves that and then some. But it's something I've always wanted to compete in because frankly, ever since I watched Beat the Geeks, I've had a mind for trivia. So
nice.
Another super chat here from Andres. Love Andres. Adam, if you could have chosen a copywritten song for your theme, what would you have chosen? That's a great question.
I've thought of this. It's a cover of the song "The Pusher." So "The Pusher" is originally by Steppenwolf. It's in Easy Rider, and but one of my favorite bands ever, Blind Melon, they did a cover of that song, and it is a killer track. So "The Pusher" by Blind Melon is the one that I would have chosen. Nowadays, even if we could get the copyrights, I don't know if it would fly because they say "goddamn" and they reference drug use once or twice. But it's a great song, and it opens up with this just amazing riff on an acoustic guitar that I when I fantasized about playing in the Schmodown, I just like imagine that like queuing up and then bursting through the curtains, all that good stuff, and having it be like personal to me because I love Blind Melon so much, but it's also like an indirect reference to Easy Rider, so that's kind of cool. So. Trust me, I've thought about it.
Well, got that, Andres. So yeah, I love it as well. I guess a good choice.
So speaking of busting through the curtain and dreams of going into the Schmodown, it's very unfortunate that we have to play in the way that we're playing now. So I want to get your opinion on stuff like that. Playing. How do you feel about not being able to play in the studio?
Yeah, I mean, it's
at least right now.
Yeah, it's a two-way street in my opinion. So like. On one hand, it's really a blessing and an opportunity for so many of us because this situation we're all in is terrible. We all know that, and we all want to see it. We all want to get on the other side of it and see people getting healthy and being safer. But in the meantime, I think it's all given us pause and had forced us to take account of the things that are within our control. And having the silver lining be that we can start opening up the league to people who are out of town, I think that can't be overlooked. I think that's huge as major implications going forward for the Schmodown. So yeah, I'm thrilled that I was able to get involved sooner rather than later because all of us kind of as a society agreed we're going to live online for a while, guys. Do you want to have nothing or do you want to be online? And lately, there's been this pivot back to this conversation about like, well, would such and such have done better if they were in the studio and all this stuff? And I understand the speculation for sure because playing live on a stage, playing in the studio around other people versus playing at home, it's different. But the thing I think people need to really focus on with these virtual matches is. I don't think any of us has a distinct advantage over the other because we're all at home, and I played a handful more matches online than some of these veteran competitors. Yes, but I'm no less intimidated. I'm no less like going into any match. There's this excitement you feel as a competitor. You get butterflies, you feel that even if you're in front of your computer. So even though I was calm during my Roka match, I was excited going into it. It's just I'm able to almost flip a switch when I'm playing the game where I focus in on the questions and I think about only the questions. And I have the utmost confidence that when I'm provided the opportunity to go be in a studio, you could put Roka on the other side of the table. Roka, if he really wants to, could just challenge me to an exhibition match if it's that important to him. And I would be happy to play him in the studio again. And he can scream in my face the entire time. And we'll see how it goes. But I would be just as confident going into that match that I would make it challenging, if not win again. I think I focus on the questions and I prepare for my opponent. It's that simple. A live event, I think, is the only thing that is on another level because you could have anywhere from 300 to 1,000 people in front of you. And that is... even if you're not intimidated by it, you're excited by it. And you can thrive off of it, but you also got to make a lot of extra effort to really focus on the questions. So if I'm ever able to get to that level where I can play in a live event, I look forward to that challenge. But I am eager to play in the studio so that people can see that it's not just a virtual thing.
Good. It's interesting to say because I remember I was talking about the difference between facing a John Roca and facing a Lon Harris just in terms of gameplay and stuff. As John is going for the intimidation factor, whereas Lon might be going for the not even meaning to, but just the distraction by being so funny with Mark Ellis and everything else. Is that something that could distract you think, going up?
Lon. I mean,
Lon being delinquent and just throwing not even jabs at you, just being funny and almost distracting, almost getting off your gameplay a little bit. I think. Is that fear?
He could certainly try. I honestly I really am able to compartmentalize when I'm playing this game, and I just. It's not that I would be able to completely ignore antics. I certainly picked up on what Roca was throwing down in my match with him, even though he was a little more subdued than he normally is. He threw out some jabs here and there. He couldn't help it. And I'm like, I hear you. Let's get back to playing the game. And so Lon is a whole different thing because he's not trying to scare me. He could he could literally make me laugh, if I'm not paying close enough attention. So I'm going to be on my guard with him because he's still to this day, even though people consider him good, he's still underrated for sure. I think he's demonstrated how dangerous he is in that run with Paul recently, and now they're going to get another chance in this team's tournament. So yeah, I mean, it's a factor to consider, but all I can do is just focus on listening to the announcers.
And not get distracted by them bird calling like Ben Goddard did, pretty much.
Come on.
That wouldn't bother me either.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. They can sing to me. They can sing. I don't care.
Well, definitely get a little bit of Van Halen probably from.
Once I've heard the question, I'm tuning them out anyway. No offense to them, but yeah.
That's the way you got to do it. That's the way you should do it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, how are you feeling, Paul?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing, Adam?
Oh, I'm on board for this, guys. Riding smooth. Yeah.
I did have a question. You mentioned film school.
Yeah.
In a film school. Now that's interesting to me, how that affects the Schmoder and everything. But what was your dream when you were going to film school? Did you have a certain type of style film you were looking to make? Any directors you were looking forward to, looking up to, try to maybe groom your own style?
I honestly, like a lot of young kids getting out of high school, had my whole life ahead of me. I was really excited, felt like, the world was my oyster. So I jumped into film school and, I don't regret it at all. It's just like, I frankly, I was a little naive about it. Film school was amazing. And if anyone's serious about film school, I'm not discouraging you. Go to film school because my degree was not a waste of time at all. It's just in retrospect, I kind of, I would have approached it a little bit differently if I'd started it in my mid-20s than when I was 18 years old.
Right.
So, but at the same time, that's where I fell in love with film deeply because I loved movies all growing up, more than the average person for sure. And when I got to college, I applied to the film program at Ithaca College at their communications school. Got in, had the time of my life for 4 years, spent some time in Los Angeles, spent some time after I graduated in Seattle, did a little bit here and there, but it's just not something. I also graduated during the recession, the first one. Yeah. So that was tough. There weren't a lot of jobs that were going to be 9 to 5 in the film industry right out of the gate. So, but what I took away from it though was the way I engaged with the medium and the way it impacted me across all walks of life. And I got to be cagey about which directors I mention because some of them are wheel slices. But there's one who's not a wheel slice who I think is safe to mention, and that's Werner Herzog.
Okay.
Yeah, so Werner Herzog, David Lynch, Jim Jarmusch, those are three who aren't wheel slices I can mention, right? Yeah. So yeah, no, those are three directors that I was obsessed with in film school, and I watched their entire filmography, and they're still three of my favorite filmmakers. And I just wait around anytime they make anything. So I really glommed onto their stuff, and I made a lot of, I took a lot of experimental film classes and made some stuff I'm really proud of, made some really weird stuff, but it was an experience I wouldn't trade for anything. That's for sure.
Fair enough. I like that.
This is going to be a randomly odd question, but are you looking forward to Dune?
I am looking forward to Dune. So I'm not a hardcore Dune fan as far as the books are concerned. I'm very aware of Dune. I mean, to be frank, David Lynch's Dune, I like it more than most people, but it's also my least favorite David Lynch film, if I'm being completely honest. But I also think it's an interesting anomaly of a movie, because that's the movie he made instead of Return of the Jedi. And I always found that to be an interesting. It makes sense that he would have done that over Return of the Jedi.
100%.
Because he had more creative control over the project and everything.
Can you imagine Return of the Jedi, though? My God.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I would love that too. I would love to see what David Lynch would do with Ewoks.
Yeah.
The original Dune, I think, has its place in the history books. I know it's not an objectively great film, but I think it's interesting, and I think it's very visually compelling. And then people always forget about the sci-fi miniseries. That was halfway decent from what I recall. It's just it had a low budget. That was the only problem.
Right.
But for a TV miniseries, it was okay. But seeing what Villeneuve's doing visually with this, I mean, once I heard he was going to make it, it just made sense on the heels of Blade Runner 2049, because you see that movie and you just see where his heart is with that genre. It's like it went Arrival and then Blade Runner 2049, and now we're at this extreme level with Dune. All bets are off with the movie.
Right.
And I want it to succeed because, I hope it can succeed, but I'm as skeptical as everyone else, not because I don't think it's going to be good, just because I know what general audiences are like.
We saw what happened to Blade Runner 2049, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Polyama agrees with you about someone graduating from film school right into a pandemic. So, good to see you, Paul.
Yeah, I had to run a lot of retail stores throughout my 20s to pay the bills, so that was fun.
Good time.
Left that life behind a while ago, thank God. But I did what I had to do to pay the bills, and I just kept watching movies too.
Absolutely, that's why I worked at FYE. Actually, I got to watch the movies when I was working sometimes. So.
Oh yeah. Hey, I had a stint at Hollywood Video for a while. I closed it when they died. I helped liquidate a couple of those stores. So yeah,
definitely.
That was depressing.
My mom was an assistant manager at Hollywood Video for a long time when I was a kid. So I spent my summers inside of a Hollywood Video.
Oh yeah. So you're familiar. Yeah. I mean, many hours I'll spent in that Hollywood Video.
Good times.
Yeah.
Watching the movies on Tuesdays. Woo, fun stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I always had a blast there.
Now I have to ask about your Twitter handle. Can you?
Oh yeah.
Tell me where that came from.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't. So Eisenthor. Yeah. So Eisenthor is this character from a short story I wrote long time ago. I wrote the first version of it in high school. I wrote another version of it in college. Right. And Eisenthor is this my favorite character. One of my favorite characters in literature, cinema of all time is Gandalf. Gandalf is who I want to be when I grow up. That's what I want to do someday. I want to be a wizard and roam the countryside and make cool fireworks for people. That's what I want to do. But to scratch that itch in the meantime, I wanted to write my own story about a wizard who was as old and ancient as Gandalf, but he's the main protagonist. We see everything from his point of view, and I like the idea of having an elderly protagonist in a story, especially a fantasy story where Gandalf's a very prominent character, but it's never truly from his point of view. And I was like, well, what if this was a fully rounded wizard character who actually, engages with his surroundings, and we can start to identify with him and find out what scares him when he's so powerful and things like that. So I worked on that idea several times, and maybe one day I'll write the movie. Who knows? But his name is Eisenthor, and it's just because I wanted to create a name back then that was completely made up and had kind of a fun phonetic sound to it. And then it just became the username that was never taken. And, but it's also, to me, it's also this like quiet acknowledgement of just, I want to be a wizard someday, and not a Harry Potter wizard. No offense to people who love Harry Potter. It's cool. But I'm a Lord of the Rings wizard. That's what I want to be. I want to be fighting Balrogs, and I want to be cutting off the heads off of goblins. I want to do that kind of stuff.
That makes sense. I get that. Ben Bateman in the chat there. Congrats, rookie. Played like a champ.
Oh, man. Hello, Ben. That's very nice of you to say. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ben Bateman doing some scouting, it looks like.
He's always working, that guy. He's always working. Well, without further ado, I think it's time to get into the second part of the show. This is called This or That. If you've visited us before, you know how this works. If you don't, I'll explain it briefly now. I'm going to be giving Adam option A, option B, and let him choose between them and tell us why if he wants to, or he can just say them and let go. That's up to him, really. You can throw some in the chat if you'd like. Some will be written for him specifically. Some will be some ones we kind of do on a regular basis, so we get our baselines going. Are you ready, Adam? Are you ready to take on the challenge?
Let's go.
All right. The first one we always ask on this channel, being a bastard son, so to speak, of the Action Army, Team Action. Are you on the side of the Civil War? Are you Team Guy, or are you Team Bateman?
Jeez.
And then no pressure that Ben Bateman's in the chat, by the way.
No pressure.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. I would drink whiskey with both of them. Is that a cop-out? I don't know. I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't. Right now, it seems like Guy is going through some stuff, and I hope he pulls through, and I hope that people stop tapping his phones or whatever it is they're doing to him. It's driving him nuts. So I'm kind of sympathizing with Guy right now because I just feel bad for him. I don't know if that means I'm siding on the Guy side of the Civil War necessarily, but I feel bad for whatever he's dealing with. But I mean, you look at Bateman, and Bateman is a very storied competitor. That is a guy with a real legacy already. And I'll be interested to see how things play out in the wake of this match with Dan. I know a lot is up in the air right now. So maybe those two will be like ships in the night, except they'll stop.
If we, from your lips to the Schmodown God's ears, whether it be Christian or whoever, at this point, okay, I'll go with that. You did say,
and then I won't have to answer this question in the future. Hopefully,
you seemed to deflect very well, sir, and I won't push, but we're gonna call that Team Action.
Team Guy Action, I'll say, because it was a little leaning towards him a little bit. We'll say so. If I have to mark it down, we'll grade it. We'll leave it ungraded for now. But all right, let's see here. Next up, how about the Rocky franchise? Well, no, I'm sorry, not the Rocky franchise. I say Rocky or Creed.
Rocky or Creed?
Yeah, Rocky or Creed.
I mean, what's happened? If I could just offer a preface, if I may.
Absolutely.
I think what has been accomplished with the two Creed movies is incredible. I think not only has it revitalized the franchise, it's offered a new perspective from a really interesting character, more than one interesting character. And Creed 2 effectively made the events of Rocky 4 more realistic by default because they were acknowledged in a realistic way. So I can't overstate how much I love the Creed movies, but I have to choose Rocky because there's 6 of them, and I grew up with those films. They were some of the first movies I ever watched, and I was the guy who, even though I knew he was going to win that rematch with Clubber Lang, I was running around screaming and cheering him on during the match because I wanted him to win so bad. So, I mean, I have to go with the original series because of what it meant to me. I am so glad the Creed movies exist.
Yes.
I also don't think there need to be 6 Creed movies. I think one more would be sufficient if they have a really good story. I don't think they even have to do that, but I would take one more if they have a really good idea. But you look at the Rocky franchise, and with the exception of number 5, which obviously is problematic at best, I think Rocky Balboa was just such a cool way to bring it back into the mainstream and such a heartfelt movie. The movie's so, frankly, it's a sweet movie. In all the best ways. I find it very moving, that Rocky Balboa. I like that movie a lot. So, yeah, I love the Creed movies, but I got to go with the Rocky franchise.
I go with that as well. I actually would do that as well. So good choice there. Okay. This is kind of a timely one. Bill S. Preston or Ted Theodore Logan?
I am Ted Theodore Logan because Keanu Reeves is someone very near and dear to my heart. I remember I saw Bogus Journey before I saw Excellent Adventure.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, as a kid, for whatever reason. And, I love both of those movies. I love the new one. That movie was made I feel like it was made just for me. Like, I'm watching it, and I'm just like, other people are watching this too? Because it's just seems like kind of like esoteric in a way with all these references, but I really love it. So I'm Ted Theodore Logan because I just identify with Keanu. I identify with the Ted character. I mean, they're similar, yes, but he also had to deal with possibly getting shipped off to military school. Like, Bill didn't have the imminent threat in his life that Ted did, and I like that Ted had just a little extra element of peril that he was dealing with, and Bill just loves his buddy, so he's trying to help him not get shipped off to military school. So I think Bill is salt of the earth. They both are, but I think Ted just had a few more things on his plate that I identified with.
That's a good choice. I haven't seen the third one yet. I really do want to see that soon.
It's wonderful.
I had to blame my son because my son wanted to watch them with me, and he never saw the original, so I had to watch the first one, and then I had to find time for the second one. But third one soon, so I'm looking forward to it. I've heard all the great reviews, so I'm definitely excited about it. Although I'm curious about George Carlin, about missing George Carlin in it. So
I won't spoil anything, but they honor him in a really cool way. And Death, William Sadler as the Grim Reaper is just genius. It's just, I want him to have his own movie, honestly. But
I think he could. I mean, I haven't seen the third one yet, but I think he could totally handle that. I mean, we've seen Minions get a spinoff from Despicable Me. I think if that could happen, then Death could totally do a movie by himself. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Speaking of Keanu, looking forward to more. John Wick 4 or The Matrix 4?
I'm excited for both. John Wick 4 slightly more just because the franchise has been so consistent for me. Now, I actually really enjoy the Matrix sequels more than most people. I see all the flaws. I get the criticisms, but they're not unpleasant for me to watch they are for other people. I think the second one is a fun action film. I think the third one is a little too cerebral for its own good at times, but I find it interesting. But that first one I still consider a masterpiece for all intents and purposes. I think it functions on so many different levels. So the fact that the Wachowskis are working on it again, and I feel like there's a really good idea behind it. I trust that there's a good idea behind it to bring Keanu back in some capacity. So I have high expectations that it'll at least hopefully rank higher for people than the original 2 sequels. I'm hoping it does that. But I have complete faith in the John Wick franchise at this point. And my hope is that they are able to keep it hidden from us until the 5th movie that they've cast Daniel Craig as the final boss.
That would be awesome.
As a simultaneous send-off for him as Bond. I think that would be kind of brilliant. But.
That'd be great. That would be great. Okay. All right. Moving further on, let's see how it goes. The Lord of the Rings trilogy or the original Star Wars trilogy?
It's cruel.
I try to make it look tough sometimes.
I have an answer, but it's with a qualifier, if that's okay. If pressed, the Lord of the Rings, but for very specific reasons. So, like a lot of people, those are 2 of my favorite franchises. I think the whole world loves most of those franchises. But the original Star Wars trilogy, I mean, I went and saw it in theaters when I was younger, when it came back in '97. So that was just, even with all the special edition silliness that everyone complains about, which, can we just get over it at this point? Like, it is what it is. Like, it just is what it is. Let's move on. It's still Star Wars, okay? So when I saw those in theaters for the first time, I'd watched them on VHS growing up, like here and there, but I'd never really actually, my first Star Wars movie was Caravan of Courage, the Ewok Adventures.
Oh, God, yeah.
Which I own on DVD. But yeah, no, the original trilogy is near and dear to my heart. And it's one of the reasons I fell in love with movies, like a lot of people. But The Lord of the Rings hit me at a time where I just had this deeply emotional response to it. And I love Star Wars, and Star Wars does elicit an emotional response from me. But Lord of the Rings was different. I saw Fellowship of the Ring in theaters 6 times alone. Just because I couldn't stop seeing it. I was a freshman in high school back then, I think. But yeah, I just kept going back to that movie because I just had such a strong response. It was so immersive. That's the other thing. Like, I love those original Star Wars movies, and I can suspend my disbelief with some of the gags in them. But The Lord of the Rings is truly immersive for me. I love the books, so my emotional connection to that material goes a little bit deeper. And I also just find that trilogy to be lightning in a bottle. I don't think anything like that will be replicated, because I think what Peter Jackson did at the time, even he can't repeat. He tried with the Hobbit movies. And I enjoy those more than most people because I love Middle Earth. But the Lord of the Rings movies are just objectively, in my opinion, big accomplishments. I know a lot of people like get to them late in life and say, what's the big deal? They're really long. But, you know, I think the prevailing opinion is that they are valuable contributions to film. And I think that just the production design and everything about them is just astonishing. So that's why I pick Lord of the Rings with a slight edge, but with the qualifier that Star Wars is what made me be a nerd in the first place, probably.
I love that answer. Anyways, I love both of them, and I would actually hate to be asked that question for the same reason I do that. Marisol does say one trilogy to rule them all.
Yeah, she and I are in agreement on that. Yeah, we've discussed it.
We do have a couple of different things. Star Wars is great despite its absolutely. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings could exist as greatly as books. That's an interesting caveat. But yeah, I also have to subscribe the Clerks 2 to that, if you've seen that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's what I favorite segment in that movie.
I made fun of it so hard the super nerd threw up. That's something what he says. Yeah. No, I understand the argument, they could be just books, but they are still just books, and they're never going to stop being books. It's just those of us who love movies have the movies too, and it's best of both worlds.
That's true. Absolutely. All right. Now, we talked about this one before a little bit, but I don't know if we ever got a final answer. Would you guys rather face corruption for the belts, or would you rather face Shazam for the belts?
Corruption.
You would still definitely face corruption for the belts. Okay.
Yeah, because playing Shazam would be a great contest, and we'd be excited to rise to the occasion for sure. Mm-hmm. But nothing beats a true contest between people who respect each other, and when the faction wins in the end, that gives you peace of mind. So that's ultimately your silver lining, and I think that was proven in the Inner Geekdom tournament. Mm-hmm. It wasn't BS. We were all thrilled with that outcome because they ended up getting a great match, and there was a lot of sportsmanship on display, and you saw that did not create a rift, because then they went and won the team belts. After an Inner Geekdom tournament, by the way, people don't talk about that. They just hopped off from an Inner Geekdom tournament and went and won those team belts. Kind of a big deal, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very impressive. It was very impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, one of our normal ones here: poutine or loaded fries?
I actually, I'll say poutine, because I work in the beer industry. So like sometimes when I'm on the road for work, a lot of these breweries, the only thing they have are food trucks. Right. And if I'm on the road and I just need to not be hungry for a little while, I've been a lot of these food trucks that do like specialize in poutine and just make amazing stuff.
Really?
And I usually just go with the traditional, but yeah, poutine. It's a little less busy too. Loaded fries get out of control. they can be good, but there's fewer rules. It's it's a little too wild for me at times, I guess.
I love that answer. I have a beer, this or that for you. Okay, IPA or a saison?
Well, why not both? I mean, I do drink both. I do drink both. I am not ashamed to admit that I drink as much IPA as the next bearded guy with long hair. I do, but it's with open eyes, and it's not me going around like telling the next guy or gal like, "Hey, have you heard of this IPA I'm drinking? It's really something." So when it comes to making your palate dance, saison for sure. Yeah, saison is where you can get a really the yeast strains are very specific, and depending on the malts you use to ferment the beer, you can get some really, really fantastic results. And there's a lot of saisons that are fermented with wild yeast, which is when they put it in the barrels and kind of let it do its thing, like in the old days. And that stuff is really aggressive, but you get some really funky flavor out of it. So yeah, I've had some amazing saisons in my lifetime.
All right, here, let's stick to food here. Frankie Numbers always yells at me about this one. New York pizza or Chicago pizza, which some people call deep dish, some people call lasagna. He always gets angry when I say that, though.
I like deep dish pizza once in a while, but not all the time. So New York pizza.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. And the other one that Jake Yakavetta from C2 will always ask is, are you a pineapple on pizza guy or not?
I definitely enjoy Hawaiian pizza once in a while. I don't order it all the time, but I am down with it when it shows up. And I actually am really excited when I show up at parties and no one touches that, because then it's like I get it all to myself. Maybe throw a few slices in tin foil, put it in my back pocket if I have to.
Well, I do food for later. I get it, man.
Yeah.
Same way.
Yeah. I have no issues with pineapple on pizza. No, I'm good with it.
All right. How about round 1 or round 2?
Round 1 or round 2?
In the showdown.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Which do I prefer?
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
I guess, round 1, maybe by a slight edge, just because I love the variety of the questions, and I love how you can't truly study for round 1. There's no way to do it.
Right.
It's just what you know, and that's what's so fun about it. That's why I really hope I get to play in a free-for-all, next year, because I feel confident in those round 1 level questions, and I want to see how I can measure up in a free-for-all. So that's why I enjoy round 1, but round 2 is I like round 2 as well, because it's a very specific part of the game that you have to have a lot of strategy and preparation in mind for. And I think round 2, as I demonstrated in my match against Roca, you can more or less shut down the match if you can own round 2. And I think any competitor should aspire to make sure they're not afraid of wheel slices. That's what you really need to do. Like, you may not be lights out in every single wheel slice. That's not possible necessarily, but you can't be afraid of anything that might show up. You got to be prepared to some extent. So that's my opinion.
Fair enough. All right. From the chat, Danny Coast, Mulholland Drive or Lost Highway?
Mulholland Drive, but I love Lost Highway. And we wouldn't have Mulholland Drive without Lost Highway. Lost Highway was like the male version of that story in a lot of ways. Whereas you had the female perspective in Mulholland Drive. But with Lost Highway, I like Lost Highway because it's a slightly more frightening film in a lot of ways. And it's a wonderful showcase for why Bill Pullman's awesome, and not just the president in Independence Day. Bill Pullman, I really like Bill Pullman. I always have, and he really shines in the right project. Yeah. And by the way, guys, we can keep this going for another 10 to 15 minutes if you'll have me.
Oh, cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Sounds great. Okay, I'll do one last one then to end out this little segment. How about either Han Solo or Indiana Jones? The Harrison Ford question.
Han Solo, but that's also has a lot to do with what the Star Wars movies mean to me versus the Indiana Jones movies. Indiana Jones, I like a lot. I'm not as passionate about that franchise as other hardcore fans. Like I'm not a Mike Kalinowski when it comes to Indiana Jones. But like I own the box set. Like I watch them, I like them. But Han Solo, I mean, that's the original Harrison Ford character from any movie that I first saw. And he just is this effortlessly charming character. And I just wanted to hang out with him. When I finally caught up with the Indiana Jones movies when I was younger, because I saw them when I was young, but just a little bit later than some kids. And I liked Indiana Jones, but he just didn't have the smarminess that Han Solo does. I do like how much he punches people in the face, though. I've always liked that. Yeah. He's really good at it.
He's got a great sound effect too. Yeah, those are the best sound effects, like punches I think I've ever heard. Or like the sound of it, it's so great.
It's the best part of Crystal Skull because he punches a lot of people in that movie, and those are literally my favorite parts of the entire film when he punches people.
Pretty much, right? All right. Well, that's it for this or that. You have survived your experience.
All right.
We will move on to the last part of the show. That is the chat questions. Of course, you've been throwing some in there already. That's great. Any Streamlabs, of course, and Super Chats will be prioritized. But if you want to throw them in the chat as well, we will get to those as well. I'll start with that just real quick. This, my friend, is the NGO. It's a new Guy order shirt that came out a long time ago when Team Action broke up, and I jumped to Team Guy side, even though I work Ben and Drew, and I still work with Ben, but I still give him shit because that's just how we roll.
Shirt that I was very sad to miss.
That's that.
Very sad I don't have that shirt.
It's not as good as the other shirt though that I have. The one shirt, the special edition shirt I got, which was I am the guy GHI who beat Dan Merle. And then I guess they had to really change that because it wasn't something. I guess Dan didn't like it very much. So they changed it to the guy who beat the goat instead. But like, why? I was the only guy who got that shirt before it was taken out of service. But it was but yeah. So, but anyway, should we start our plugs right now, Danny?
Yeah. So, chat, make sure that you get the questions in. While you're getting the questions in, I'm going to go ahead and bring up our sweet, lovely Miss Kelsey Kirkland. Welcome, Kelsey.
Hello. Happy to be on. Excited to.
Muted.
Nope, he's good.
No,
it's my audio is off, so Kelsey's audio is off for me on this end. So that's what it is for from me. So okay. This is gonna be fun.
Do you want me to leave and come back, Paul?
You want her to leave and come back? You want to try that?
Yeah, try that.
Try that. If my worst comes to worst, I can hear her, so I can make do. So that's weird. That happens. All right. Anyway,
it's on my end. It's never on your end either. So.
I don't know what it is, but all right. Here she comes. She's back. See, that's really quick. Let's see. Can I help her?
Nope. Let me leave and then come back. So I'll let you all continue with the plugs. I'll let you all start the plugs on the show, and then I will come right back. So.
Kelsey, can I try to say something again?
Hello.
I can.
Okay. Wait. Do it again.
Hello.
That's good. We're good.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Technical difficulty. Hi, I'm good.
Actually, I recall that we always have technical difficulties at some point, so it's just par for the course. What are you gonna do?
It is. So thank you, Kelsey, for coming on. Like I said, chat, get those questions in for that. We'll make sure that Kelsey gets to those. But while y'all are doing that, we are going to go ahead and let you all know what we have going on for the Call to Action Network coming up on this week. And Paul, I'll let you take over that.
Okay, well, we do try to do breakdowns for every match. And it's another one of those 4 matches per week. That's why we're actually getting killed right now because it's been hard to come up with everything. We will try to we have at least 2 of them scheduled, and if we don't do the other 2, then we'll catch up with them later in the week on Call to Action Live, which I'll get to in a moment. On Tuesday, I believe we're going to have Schmobates. We're still kind of dotting some I's and crossing some T's. We're hoping to make that Roxy, the Rockstar edition of Schmobates that was supposed to happen last week, but then Mark Andreyko's internet crapped out, and so we couldn't have it done. That's supposed to be Jeff Snyder versus Mark Andreyko. Roxy guest hosting on that. That should be a lot of fun. And then later on in the week, we shall also have on Saturday the Call to Action Live, which we Might have a guest on for that too. I'm still kind of working. A lot of this is kind of TBA. You got a lot of like irons in the fire, so to speak. But we'll be breaking down, of course, this week, the rest of this week's show. We'll be making particular. Let's start talking about the teams tournament because we've been meaning to do that for like 2 weeks in a row now. We actually wanted to do it before they were announced, and then we wanted to do it last week, but we kind of ran out of time with all the pay-per-view matches and breaking downs of that. So this week we should definitely have time. We'll deep dive into the team tournament that Adam and Marisol might just win. So we'll go into that. Next week's chill, again, I got to say, it's a TBA one. We have someone in mind, but we haven't quite signed that contract, so to speak. We're hoping to sign that, and we'll let you know as soon as we know, and Kelsey will make a nice ad and put it up on a social media for us. And next week after that, we do have another legacy player hopefully coming. We're also crossing eyes and dotting T's on that one, but that should also be a fun one. But I also do want to promote one last thing I do have the thumbnail for. We're going to use next Friday the 25th. Is going to be the inaugural Last General Standing Movie Trivia Battle Royal. Now, what is that? We are teaming up with the Action Army, the action industry, so to speak, not with them, but with the generals of their Patreon. As you guys know, I run the Action Industry's Patreon. So we're going to have all the generals in the Army, well, those who are going to sign up. We have a good, 10 to 15 so far signed up. We're going to get a few more, and we're going to put them through a free-for-all style match, just like this Schmodown. We're going to do our first ever real live match on Call to Action. I don't know if I'm participating yet or if I'm hosting. I haven't made up my mind yet. You never know. It's not Star Wars, so I'm not as good. So if it's Star Wars, I would do it. But we'll see about that. Or at Harris. If it was at Harris Slice, I would definitely do that as well. But hopefully we'll do that. We're going to see if it's Corey, just so you know, yet can fans join? Not yet. That's something we're going to have to talk. We want it to be the generals only at this point, maybe the Action Army, but this might lead to something in the future where that's something that who knows is going to happen in the future, but it's a good way to get going on it. Hopefully it'll be fun. So we'll see how that works out. This is our first attempt to do anything like that. Yes, you better start studying, Justin, because you're going to be in on that. And Alan, you just let me know. You sign up and you're in it. That's all there has to do it because you're a general. So that's what we're doing. And is that it for the week? I think I got everything else. Sorry, I was going to forget something, but.
All right, Kelsey, hit us with something.
All right. First question we have is, do you have a favorite Roka match besides your own?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. Favorite Roka match besides my own. Let me think. There's a few that come to mind. Honestly, I've enjoyed all of his showdowns with Bibbs, just because I get really invested in the build up to when they play, and Bibbs has the upper hand on him for now as a series, I believe, of contests. Yeah. But Roka also took the title away from Bibbs, and that carries a lot of weight. Mm-hmm. And that was a hell of a match from Roka. It was really impressive. He walked in with determination, and he did what he does best in that match, and he did it against Bibbs. And Bibbs is someone who isn't his kryptonite by any means, but is someone who's gotten the better of him recently, and just that'll never be taken away from John. Like that belt he took off of Bibbs was a huge match, and I went into that kind of. I've always liked Bibbs, so I was kind of rooting for him to defend, but I was not disappointed to see Roka win because it was very genuine and it was earned, and it was a great match. And he won me over. He won me over like Rocky IV style at the end of that match.
There you go. I love that.
That was good.
I'm training Roka.
Next question we have is from Corey Quinto. Favorite memory from playing in the fan leagues?
I had a triple threat match that was a high pressure match, and I was really new going into that, playing a couple of more veteran players, and I was the underdog, and I came out on the other side of that with a crafty win, and a win that I was really proud of, with questions that were really hard, and I ended up winning because I was able to do my homework on one of my opponent's strengths. And I got to win with like the clutch move of getting a steal out of one of his strengths. And that kind of clinched the match for me. So that was a very good memory for sure.
Very cool. All right. Next question. Do you think Star Wars will make a new trilogy? And I love Lord of the Rings. My favorite is Return of the King. Do you think there will be a sequel to Return of the King?
Well, I think the sequel to Return of the King is the world we live in now, because we're in the age of man, right? We're in the fourth age. Yeah. So I don't like the sequel to Return of the King that much. No, as far as Star Wars trilogy, I think trilogy is. I don't think we need to do predestined trilogies anymore. I think we can take a break from that. I don't think you need to announce trilogies anymore, unless it's like based off of a series of books or something like that. And even then, don't get ahead of yourselves. Make the first one, make it good, and then we'll talk. But with Star Wars, when it comes to the films, I'm completely on board with hopping farther into the past. I'm very encouraged by this High Republic stuff that they're talking about with the expanded canon. Yes. I hope that they're able to parlay that into some kind of on-screen story as well, because you could really play around in that era and make it interesting. I think what's happening with The Mandalorian is really encouraging. I love how unencumbered that story is by the larger universe, and I think the results speak for themselves. The response to that series has been huge. It's been the most positive response since The Force Awakens came out. So I think they would be best served to dip into the past and play around with some of the mythology a bit and teach us more about the history of this expansive universe. And if it ends up becoming a trilogy, cool. Or a quadrilogy like Alien, whatever you want to call it. You could do 3, 4, 5. I don't care. Just make them good and think about it, and connect them in meaningful ways. Because I love Star Wars enough that I can look at the prequels and the sequels and I can kind of squint at certain things and make peace with it. But I do have issues like everyone else, but I also love Star Wars enough that I can transcend those issues more than a lot of people. I find something to enjoy in all the Star Wars movies, even the Ewok adventures. So I would be totally on board with like a High Republic, if that's what they want to do, series of movies.
Nice.
Totally speaking my language and everything you just said about Star Wars, just so you know. I'm completely on board with everything you just said.
Glad to hear it. All
right. Next question we have from our own Danny. What is the most rare film in your collection back there?
There's a couple, but one of them is Werner Herzog's first film, Signs of Life. It's his first feature-length film that he released. It's a black and white film, very, very good. You could probably find it on YouTube, and watch it if you really wanted to, but it's not physically in circulation anymore. So I was trying to round out my Herzog collection a few years ago. I have the box sets of his, so I have like most of his heavy hitter movies, but I was trying to find the ones that aren't in a box set. And I found a copy of Signs of Life on eBay, but it was one of those rare ones that I couldn't just do buy it now. I had to actually bid, and I was stressing out about it. And I ended up getting the movie. I didn't pay a fortune for it either. I just had to be patient, And I was just really happy when I had it in my hands because I've been seeking out that DVD for a long time. And it's like an old library copy that got resold. Like, that's how old it is. Like, you can't find it anywhere. So I'm really proud of owning Signs of Life. It's a cool movie.
Nice.
That's very cool.
I like that.
All right. A quick question from Jake Yacovetta, always working. Adam, can you take some pics that we can use for future thumbnails?
Yeah. See, here's the thing. Like, I have never... The whole selfie thing passed me by. I've never... I've been forced to take selfies before for like my job, and I'm just like, do I have to take a picture of my own face? Yeah, I mean, I'll work on it, Jake. I'll work on it.
All right. Next question we have is from Cam. Being cerebral, is it hard to chill or empty your mind?
No, I mean, I am the kind of guy who, much like a coyote, doesn't mind sitting out under the night sky and just kind of decompressing at the end of the day, whether it's a beer or something else. Like, I just need to, I like being outside when it's quiet. Like, that's my thing. Like, so that's usually around nighttime, like I was just on this work trip to Vermont, and up in Vermont, like, it's silent everywhere. It's wonderful. And I just, before I went to bed each night, I would go out and just kind of enjoy the night sky, because I don't think enough of us do that. And that's how I decompress. Like, just, yeah.
All right. And the last question I have right now is that a Castlevania shirt?
You bet your ass.
Nice, very nice.
Oh yeah, Castlevania for life.
Did you like to see the Netflix series? I never actually got a chance to see that.
Yeah, that's the question that I was going to ask.
Oh yeah, I like that series a lot.
Okay.
I really dig it. Yeah, it's great. I actually not to go off on a tangent, but just quickly, when I worked my internship years ago I had this internship at Focus Features in Universal Studios, and they had us read a bunch of scripts. You know, that's what interns do. And I got to read the script for Paul W.S. Anderson's planned Castlevania movie.
Ooh.
And the thing is, I've seen all the Resident Evil films. Not a big fan, admittedly. I love the games. I love the Resident Evil games. And I love the Castlevania games. And so I always wanted to see it adapted in a cool way. And I read that script, and no offense to Mr. Anderson, but yikes. So when the series came out, that script's dead. It's not, so it's okay to say that. But when the series came out, I was just so happy with how it turned out, because it nailed everything I wanted from a Castlevania adaptation. So good stuff.
Cool.
Very, very cool.
That's it.
And that's it, Kels.
All right.
Look at that. Good timing.
That is it, y'all. Well, thank you so much to everyone that was hanging out with us in the chat tonight. We really appreciate it. Happy Sunday to you all. Happy Monday, depending on where you're at as well. All right. So thank you to everyone again. Adam, let us know what you got going on and where the people can find you.
Well, when I'm not in the shed studying and prepping for my next match, I'm usually on Letterboxd, logging and reviewing films. You can also interact with me on Twitter, and my handle is eisenthor, AIZANTHOR. It's that simple. I don't have a YouTube channel or anything like that. Maybe someday I'll get into it if people really want to hear my opinions on stuff. But for now, I'm happy to be a guest on shows like this.
Yeah, and we thank you so much for your time. Always thank you for giving us your time. Kelsey, same thing. Let us know where you got going on, girl.
All right. You can find me at KelseyKins90 on Twitter and Instagram. I also run the Call to Action Podcast Instagram, so you can interact with me there. TeePublic, we've got merch. We've got masks. Wear a mask. And of course, you'll always find me all over this channel on breakdowns and chill and live. And so you'll see me. You'll find me.
Yeah, good stuff. My sweet baby D, PLD.
At Paul_Denuzio on Twitter. You can find me on Chill every week. You can find me on Call Action Live usually every week, and team breakdowns here and there. Also find me on Ben Baby and Drew guys channel, Action Industries, producing behind the scenes. Also doing Class Action, a show I do weekly, usually with Derek Jarvie. Last week, actually just a few days ago, live with these two lovely ladies who were filling in at that point, ranking some franchises. We'll be doing things like that again as soon as we can do more. There you go, Dwayne Burke. He's Adam Collins. He doesn't know more than you, and that's facts. That is my plug. And also, I do have my own YouTube channel. Not a whole lot on it. It's the PLD Projects channel. I will eventually. I know I've been talking about it, threatening you guys with it for like 6 months now. And I will get to it eventually, where I bring on the Harris-tance, where I go through every Ed Harris movie and make you love him like I do, or die trying. And that's it.
Yeah, well, you know me. It's your girl Danny Joy here. You can find me on Twitter at Danny Joy, DANIEEJOY. You can also find me on Twitter at Watch the Book Pod and on Instagram at Watch the Book Pod. You can find me here every week on the Call to Action Network, hanging out with my favorite co-host, Mr. Paul Denuzio, on Chill to Action and on some breakdowns every once in a while. Go subscribe to my personal YouTube channel. Hang out with me this Wednesday. I'm going live on my channel so we can go over part 1 of Aftermath. Come join the Padawan Book Club, y'all. Come and hang out with me. Let's talk about some books.
Mr. Bones.
Mr. Bones. I love Mr. Bones.
I'm getting there. I'm so excited with this project. So y'all know where you can find that. Go and reach out for me so we can get some more info on that. Yes. For everyone at the Call to Action channel, thank you all so much. We really appreciate you. And as always, y'all, we salute you. Boom, boom, boom.